one of those that throws the tree out on the 26th? She does?
We've got the brother. We've got what we call kids tree down in the basement. Whatever would be with the kids ornaments and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, cool.
And then on the basement, she's got her pretty tree that has all the fancy stuff. Her mother said, "Can we leave the tree here? Well, it's worth the extra. But typically,
She complied. She complied.
she did.
That was a nice.
Oh, yeah.
That was nice. Yeah. Oh no, mine is still up because my kids are gone. And it's like, well, the point is, usually it's like they're jumping down. Yeah, like she got me. They put the damn thing up. Now they're all off to it. But it's all right. Actually, last year, I had my housekeeper pack up all the ornaments. She does a great job.
Supposed to time.
Yeah. A lot of people do. I love the people that can do an entire tree, live tree, with the lights, with the ornaments, and just toss it on the street. You see that? Just like that. And the whole person.
Hey, Rick,
Same in the spirit. In the spirit.
Oh yeah, it's tonight, isn't it?
so this has just been handed out.
TCU, go home frogs.
For discussion.
I'm a Texas girl. Go home frogs.
Take education opportunity.
Hey, I am right there. I just want to make sure I said it well, but I didn't want to interrupt. It's easy. You can always pull it off because I know where you're off.
Yeah, we were on.
What's so remarkable? Oh. Well, you should. I think you were. I saw it in your office, right? Yeah. I know it's good. That was very nice. They did. Yeah. Yeah. It's good. Well. What did you get him?
Yeah, we gotta keep an eye on the clock tonight.
No, you ask away. You guys have to always tell you the truth. I hate it for him too. And I don't even know what else. Okay. Mr. L. Oh my God. That is the most beautiful picture. That is like totally suitable for framing. And the lipsticks are perfect and you guys are just both so beautiful. No. Why are you now in charge of my opinions? Well, you are beautiful. Well, then don't. I know you are. I'm going to work on you. Oh, very cute. Like the suit.
I'm sorry, I'm just.
Quick question. Can Crossing transfer has it transferred yet, or is it supposed to happen? It's still showing from the tax assessors thing is owned by DEA.
Yeah, we still don't.
Do.
Yeah, because we're leasing the land.
Because I know there's been a transfer side of solar that's land where the Canyon project
We got extra points for leasing the, we still have.
so the DA is going to continue to own it.
So they give it called pilot. I can explain it to you better.
Yeah, I'm going to let you get back to it.
She's only 60.
Oh, Wow, look at that dress. Hubba, hubba. I hope she had those girls tucked in well. Now, how old is your sister? First marriage. You tell her she can have kids if she wants to. Yeah, right. That's a go.
Please don't steal mine. This is my notes.
And so, is that a cousin?
They did have a summary planning. Everything's the same except
No, it is. Yeah, they're not.
Yes, sir.
Look how you're rocking with your last
I saw, well, it's actually two. There.
It's like a bunch of over there.
He looks over me.
Here, right in.
Not far down the agenda.
I've got something. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. What is it? I know.
Everything makes sense on the.
Good evening. We're going to call our meeting to order. I would ask if you have cell phones to please turn them off at this time. I'd like to welcome you to our first council meeting of the year. We will stand and have pledge of allegiance by Mayor Pro Tem Black and prayer by Council Member Reed.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would like to pray with us, would you please remain standing? Dear God of us all, we thank you for this day, the day that you have made, a day that we shall all rejoice and be glad in. As we set this agenda before you on today, we ask that you give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to make decisions based on the citizens of Madison. Amen?
Amen. All our council members are present tonight, along with our city manager and our city clerk and other staff members. At this time, we will call our Chief Ashburn, have a special presentation from our police department.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I would like to make a presentation tonight, the first meeting of the year, so it's only fitting that we have some good news and start our new year off right. On October the 4th, 2022, at approximately 9:05 p.m., Officer Jonathan Mills with the Madison Police Department responded to a call that was dispatched from 911 to an unresponsive male at one of our local hotels. Officer Mills arrived at the scene and was directed to one of the rooms at the motel. Officer Mills located a male subject lying on the bathroom floor. This subject was unresponsive, and based on information that Officer Mills received, it was believed that this was due to a drug overdose. Officer Mills quickly administered a dose of Narcan to this subject. Within a few seconds, the subject regained consciousness. EMS arrived at the scene, and Officer Mills assisted in getting the subject to the stretcher. The subject was released to EMS personnel for further treatment. Officer Mills' quick response to the scene, along with his training and experience, saved the life of a 20-year-old male. It is with a great honor and privilege to present our life-saving award to Officer Jonathan Mills of the Madison Police Department.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
Smiling. He doesn't smile. Oh, Smiley? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Approval of our minutes, our work session minutes of September the 2nd, 2022, regular meeting minutes of September the 12th, 2022, and then our work session and call meeting minutes of September the 30th, 2022. I hope you've had a chance to read your minutes. We got them today. Have everybody had a chance to read their minutes? Okay. If we can get a motion or second to approve those minutes.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could, I'd like to move to approve the minutes for the work session and the call meeting of September 2nd and the 12th for the regular meeting. I was not at the 30th, so if you don't mind splitting them up. So the 2nd and the 12th, I move we accept as presented.
Second?
There any more discussion? All in favor, show of hands. Opposed, is none, vote unanimously. So what meeting you were not at, Councilmember Joyce?
I was not at the 30th, so if someone else
Okay.
wants to make that motion,
We can
I'll
get a
just
motion to approve the
abstain.
minutes of
Mr.
September
Mayor.
30th.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move we approve the work session minutes and the called meeting minutes for September 30th, 2022. Second?
Are there any more discussion? All in favor, show of hands. Opposed, if none, those minutes are approved and accepted. Thank you so much. Now, there anything to be added to our agenda for tonight?
There's a football game, I think.
Thank you, sir. At this time, zoning hearing, public hearing, we want to ask Bryce that you're going to come forward.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
As a UGA graduate and a member of the Redcoats, I will try to keep this as short and brief as a Georgia Tech scoring drive. All right, so. It's tough.
Okay, I
not
move we
pull
approve
off.
it.
Mr. Coker, would you be kind enough to advance?
One important thing, I read the USB part out of that.
Oh, yes, Mr. Coker. Let's see.
Otherwise, it's not going to talk to me.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and just start briefly with a summary of the Planning Commission response. They recommended this with the conditions you'll see in the presentation with a vote of unanimous support. There were comments from the public. They were primarily focused on concerns regarding traffic and odor. It was pointed out that any odor concerns would be addressed by code enforcement, regardless of use. That's just our standard policy on those matters. And that during the meeting it was discussed that traffic would be potentially less because less office space will be used for terms of regular employees, since there's other space there. That should help mitigate some of the traffic. So The property in question is this PPD. It's outlined in purple. These are referred to commonly as the Bell Park Lofts. They're off of Park. There's a green space on the tip there, which belongs to the city. This area was rezoned as a planned professional district in development in 2007. And the western building is divided up into a number of condos. That's been built out. The applicant is asking for some changes to help them develop the eastern building. Specifically, offices are a permitted use under the current agreement, but what's driving this matter before you folks today is the need to do the test kitchen and the dough prep. The staff used as a stance to sort of fill it in and as an approximation with our zoning ordinance bakery. Very briefly, the conditions of note I'd like to emphasize for the record that the bakery, if this is approved, will not be open to the general public, which to be clear means not retail, and is an accessory use to the office. Staff went with this phrasing, so that's just as long as they keep their business there, they can keep the bakery stuff going. Additionally, they're allowed to use the bakery and the test kitchen for test kitchen prep. There's some other limitations that are more enforced by the site, basically noting that it'll be difficult to anything larger than those type of vehicles in there anyway. HPC has final sale exterior, and staff did add a condition that the bakery is limited to the eastern building, just for an extra point of clarification. So, again, these were recommended to the Mayor and Council for consideration on a vote of 3-0 unanimous support. If there are no questions.
Yeah, I have a question, if I could, Mr. Mayor. Is the text changes we're looking at here, is it specific, it's generally would apply to all of the planned professional districts, not just
No, sir.
for these specific
It would
ones?
only apply to just this specific one.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. If in some future date, if Mr. Massey or another lessee like Mr. Trino would want to open a bakery that is open to the public, is the wording in number 1 sufficient to prevent that being in the future,
Yes,
a
sir.
public bakery?
For 2 reasons. It is listed as an accessory use to the office, so they would have to keep their current business there. The other aspect is key to note, general public, and if you wish in an motion, you can add for emphasis, general public, parentheses, not the, prohibited, will not be open to the general public. You can rephrase that if you want for a little additional clarification. No retail sales, if you want to put that in there. Or you can just add a 6th condition, no retail sales, period. And that'll cover you. It's probably superfluous, but honestly, a couple of, if a sentence makes the issue clear, then,
And the only other question I would have, you mentioned in your report from the planning and zoning, I know Commissioner Deletto thought it seemed odd that we could not put this use as a test restaurant kitchen or something other than a bakery, because the implications to most people is that a bakery is open to the public and makes donuts and whatever else.
Sure, that is, if you wish to suggest alternative language, I will defer to legal, but this seemed the clearest way because generally, when I'm looking at these issues, I try to link it to uses we have in the land use table, because my concern was if we went and started adding new uses that we don't have on our land use table in any clear link, then did we add it? It's the easiest one, but it really, because this is linked to just this site with these conditions, it's a unique animal, for lack of a better
Okay,
phrase.
and any discussion or any action we would take regarding that last suggestion about change,
Correct.
it wouldn't be available tonight. We're not talking about
No,
that
sir.
tonight.
You could add that as amendment. I doubt you would, but
No.
I just want to add an extra thought here. Staff would also be more comfortable if you decline to use the word either bakery or restaurant. Restaurant also implies open to the public.
Yeah.
So test kitchen, make sure that you conclude it as an accessory use. And like you do with conditional uses, and Mr. Jenkins has advised us accordingly, you can have it expire with the termination of the business if you want to, and tie that on as a condition as well.
which
I would like that.
we already
And
have that up.
that's in there with the land use, but you can make it specific to the specific business if you want as well. That would tighten it up if you'd like.
If I may add, ask an additional clarifying question on Eric's, you said that for lack of a better language in the land use table, now you chose bakery. Is there nothing else in the land use table that refers to food at all?
There-
Food preparation, something like that that's,
Most of them have a connotation, including bakery, that are about retail, public access, restaurant, convenience store, grocery store, specialty grocer. Those are a couple of that spring to mind. So when we're looking at that, we sort of picked the one that fit most narrowly to what they were talking about doing. And again, with that condition, it's specific there. I will point out, and
I'm just going to add, the only other places we have food processing are in the industrial area. And that's for dairy and other products of that type. So it's an industrial process. And so this is a hybrid. It's neither an industrial process nor is it commercially accessible as a retail. So we really don't have anything on point. Bryce didn't fail to identify anything.
right.
And if I may point out one other thing, restaurants are a conditional use in P2. So in theory, these folks could come back before this board if someone would put a restaurant here, and they could toss the consideration out at that time. So if you're worrying about the food, public food access, so that's something they would have to cross that bridge down the road.
Right. Yeah, my only concern is just have it as specific as you're trying to do. I understand. I get it. No, I get it. But, as opposed to slapping something in that will do because you don't have anything else,
The benefit of having an ordinance that limits things to uses as specified, it does protect us from outside or sort of off the bank
Sure.
options. But it also does raise these questions.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I do believe we need to have a motion on the floor. Is that not right?
We need to go into our public
But we
hearing.
have to go
Public
to the
hearing, sir.
public hearing.
Public hearing.
Yes.
We haven't done any of that.
We have not, so let's go into our public. Thanks, Bryce.
All right.
But even before the motion, it was clarifying questions.
Oop, I didn't want to go that way. All right, I'll put it back to the aerial photo. Actually, thank you.
Thank you. Our public hearing is now open.
His presentation.
We have 15 minutes per side. Is there anyone here to speak for this zoning hearing, zoning change? Mr. Torino?
I'm Mike Torino, and I would like to speak in favor of this
Okay.
motion. We've run out of room over at our current location where our corporate offices are headquartered, and we have some continued growth coming, and so we looked at this facility as a place where we can add offices, and I believe part of the zoning is offices in that building. So we thought, well, if we've got offices there, maybe we can put in a little test kitchen and a place to make some dough and ship it out. And with the economy being what it is today, we're always looking for ways of containing cost. And so that's what we see for that. It seemed to just fit with the developer, the Massey Brothers, and we thought it would be close to our current location, so we felt it would just fit in pretty nicely. We're going to have probably not more than 4 people there, maybe 5 maximum. So it's not going to be a lot of traffic there. And I think the building just fits for what we're looking for. Our offices will be on the upper level. Any questions specifically of me?
So you'll be open 5 days a week, I assume?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we will be.
Good.
Typical hours, 8 till 5 or 6. I personally do not work typical hours, so you might find me there on a Saturday or Sunday, but typical, it would be 8 to 5, something like that.
Thank you. Are there any more questions for Mr. Torino?
I don't think we get to ask questions during public comment.
You can ask questions.
With each other?
You should discuss them among yourselves until spark anything.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Thank you for that clarification.
You got a question?
Do you have a question?
Okay, good.
No? You okay?
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is this going to be creating 5 new jobs, or You say you're adding to your staff, so.
So some of us are going to move from there over to here, and we are looking for people all the time, and we don't seem to find them. But they're probably at some point, once we get operational, they will add, I wouldn't say 5, but we're probably adding maybe 1 or 2 additional people. And we're also going to add probably 1 or 2 people over at our other offices over there. They're throwing me out, so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Torino. Does anyone else here want to speak for this change? Not there, anybody here to speak against this hearing, this change? If not, the public hearing is closed and it's back to our council for debate. Motion and a second.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I would be glad to present a motion to approve the application as presented for the Bell Park plots that are listed here with the identical 5 clarifications and conditions that are listed on the report.
Okay.
Second.
Are there any more discussion? All
Okay,
in favor, show of hands.
I got just one comment if I could. Let me just add that I think this is, as a neighbor right there on Candler Lane, I've spoken with a number of our residents and people in Bell Park, and there seems to be really no opposition to this. I think it's probably a good thing for us in Candler. I think it's probably going to be less parking, for example, and it would be under some of the other uses that Mr. Massey had originally envisioned. So I think it's good. I think having seen with Mr. Trino his office facilities at the Amici's, he needs more space. Amici's has been such an important part of our municipal improvement, shall we say, that I'm glad we're able to accomplish some of your goals here. Let me add just one more thing. Amici's has been a neighbor in that area for a long time, right on the corner of Candler Lane, back when they had one or the corporate office on the little bungalow right there. So it's almost like a homecoming to come back. So I'm pleased to support this measure.
We have a motion and a second on the table. There any more discussion? All in favor, show of hands. Opposes none, the vote unanimously. And Mike, we thank you so much for extending your business here in our city. Thank you for being a part of our city.
Thank you.
Contract garbage truck, Karen?
Yes, sir. This is a GMA lease purchase supplement for a commercial front loader garbage truck. This is a standard form that GMA uses. This is a budgeted item that was planned to be financed when we did the budget almost a year ago. The total cost of the truck is $329,539, and this is a 5-year lease with an interest rate of 3.83%, which is very comparable to the last time we financed a garbage truck, which was in 2018. And at that time, the interest rate was 3.63. So it did go up 0.2%. So any other questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Is leasing pretty standard for cities of our size as opposed to purchasing outright?
Yes, and that's why GMA has this program, because they do basically the legwork and all the paperwork for cities. They put it out to bid, they get the lowest interest rate. So they're doing all the upfront work and closing on everything to where we don't have to have that process. Plus, they're making sure that we are legal in what we are doing, because there are stipulations and laws about governments going out and financing things.
Am I right in assuming that City Manager Clem is in favor of this project?
Very much so. GMA has been involved with some 5,700 projects like this all around the state. So it's very commonplace to finance through GMA.
And this is where we typically go for financing, if we were to finance any type of machinery or vehicle. We finance our garbage trucks, we finance the fire truck through them, tractors, we actually financed our municipal building through them. So this is very common practice for our financing.
And this is value of being a part of GMA,
Yes.
being a member of GMA.
Indeed.
Works out. There are no more questions for Karen. If we can get a motion and a second to approve this contract for our garbage truck.
Can I get
financing.
clarification real quick? On the contract, it says mayor or manager. Do you have a preference of who signs?
Typically the mayor.
Okay. If y'all could just have, right. Well, I think we'll authorize mayor. Could y'all put that in your motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the resolution, excuse me, for garbage truck financing and authorize the mayor to sign it.
Second.
Are there any more discussion? All in favor, show of hands. Opposed, none, vote unanimously. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Monica?
Yes, sir, thank you. Good evening. As you can tell what time of year it is. It is grant writing season. So I've got a couple things for you today. Remember that these are not grants we've received. If the public is following this, they should not assume that these are grants that we have received. We do try to make sure that we notify you when we're sending off grants and make sure they're meeting purposes that are on your comp plan that have been identified by the community. And we also try to make sure that we've identified the funding source and make sure you're comfortable with the commitment, because sometimes pieces of the paperwork, especially for USDA, require us to authorize that commitment, which kind of holds those funds until such time as we do or do not receive the grant. So I've got 3 for you this evening that I need some latitude on to be able to finish pursuit of. The first one this evening is USDA. Those of you who were on the council several years ago would remember that we did a USDA grant for it was called an RBEG at that time, a Rural Business Enterprise Grant. Just like the state and federal government like to do to keep us entertained, they change the name of the grant every once in a while. So now the grant is called the Rural Business Development Grant, the RBDG grant. Same funding source, same types of projects, just has a different letter of initials. So this grant that I'm asking to apply for is $100,000. It is basically a $99,000 999 grant. They want to hand you back $5. If you go to the website, if any of the public is following it, yes, they do say they fund $500,000. They do not. In the state of Georgia, they attribute that $100,000 and smush it all around the state. And this is to help businesses grow and develop and expand. And we identified in our ARP funding an interest in our ARP planning session, an interest in replacing our streetlights. As you know, we have about 125 streetlights. Around 75 of those are Georgia Power originals that were installed during the 1990s streetscape. They are not reparable. They haven't been reparable for over 10 years. So the merchants always like for us to cannibalize from the light in front of another merchant and move it over to them. We don't do that, but we get requests for it. So we did make an application for some extra ARP funding that was out there to replace all the lights. We did not get it. This is our first snack at another attempt at that. So USDA is being asked for $100,000 to fund the replacement of 25 streetlights. That would be a third. So I've listed this as phase 1 of a 3-phase project. We anticipate that we would want to cluster those. This is the conversation I had with John. We will want to cluster those either on one side of Main Street or the other. There's roughly 25 around the post office, 25 beyond the post office, and roughly 25 that are left to do on the town park side. Town park is bright. We want the town square to get bright. So we're jumping across the street. We're looking at the 25 of the outliers that are not on the post office square. And the reason we're doing that is because we're more likely to receive the grant for that, because those are in front of businesses, not in front of the post office. One of the key characteristics of this grant is business support letters. So we have chosen the most likelihood that we will get support letters to be able to apply for this grant. So it's $100,000 from USDA, straight up and down grant, no payment back. And we're tentatively asking John to put in 75 out of T-Splost. I had a talk with Karen. We would either stated, okay. So we would either reallocate some out of the current T-Splosh that's not being utilized, or perhaps tag it for the next T-Splosh when it's collected. We have 2 years to implement the grant, but tonight I'm asking you for authorization to apply for roughly a $175,000 grant. $100,000 of it would be federal funds, $75,000 of it would be T-Splosh dollars. This would be to enhance the downtown public safety and lighting and extended hours for our merchants in downtown. And we would need your permission to apply with authorization for the mayor to say that those funds are committed and to sign all necessary paperwork. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that grant if you like.
Do we have any time frame when we might receive this grant if we're able to get it?
Yes, sir. It's a pretty quick turnaround. So what happens is the federal government makes up its mind what it's doing in October. They tell us in December grants are going to be located out. They're due by February, beginning of February, and then we'll hear by March they want us spending the money July 1st.
Wow, okay.
But it does show, Mr. Mayor, an end date, I assume that's an end date of the actual replacement of June of '24.
Yes, sir. I believe we have 2 years to do it, but we only put down 1 year for implementation because we are not going to be disturbing the streetscape. We are not going to be ripping it up and rewiring it. We're not going to be inconveniencing businesses. They are going to be dropping down new poles on top of the sidewalk. We expect the streetscape disturbance to be minimal. Georgia Power will, we place the order with Georgia Power, their sub comes and installs it, and if you remember, Hancock went in pretty quickly. We expect that these would go in pretty quickly.
So the new street lights that were put in place on Hancock that were evidently not up to specifications, shall we say, how does that fit into this particular program? Oh, I've hit a nerve.
You didn't hit a nerve. I'm just going to tell you that I'll place the order, so I'll make sure that it matches the spec.
Okay.
They sent the wrong thing and put in the wrong thing, and they thought they were going to get away with it, and it just didn't happen. So they replaced them, and now they look like the rest of our streetlights. We're very proud of them. They did a nice job.
Any more questions for Monica? If not, if we can get a motion and a second to approve this USDA RBDG grant application that Monica's applying for our city.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move that we approve the application of this grant, for this grant, the Rural Business Development Grant.
USDA.
That second?
Second.
There ain't no more discussion? All in favor, show of hands. Opposed, is none, vote unanimously.
Yes, sir. If we're successful and we turn this around fairly quickly, we would anticipate that you will see us apply for Phase 2 and Phase 3 back to back and get them all done. And hopefully with no taxpayer general fund dollars.
How about the 2023 CHIP application?
Yes, sir. So as you're aware, in 2011, we started working in the urban redevelopment area. We'd identified roughly 75 to 80 houses that needed a little bit of assistance to be brought up to code and continue their useful life as affordable housing in our community. We identified a program called CHIP, which is the Community Home Improvement Program. It specifically targets home ownership. You have to own your own home and have clear title to qualify for funds. Funds cannot be used for hanging wallpaper and adding a bathroom. They are, Carrie's heard the speech before, haven't you, Carrie? They are used to bring a single-family owner-occupied dwelling up to current code. Perhaps the HVAC system is no longer operable. Perhaps it's lost a water heater. Its roof is not operable, or it has failed. Or there have been instances where we've had a couple of kitchens that were subsanitary, or bathrooms that were subsanitary. But as a rule, it's about $25,000 to $30,000 per household, and the money does not go to the homeowner. The money goes to a contractor that is bid out competitively to an income qualified household. And that is a grant program. We don't handle it in-house. We have a grant administrator out of Americus who handles it. So everybody's personal information that comes in on whether they're income qualified or not goes to Americus. They make sure that the person's income qualified. We basically route the money and make sure that there's awareness of the program to make sure that both our contractors and our homeowners can take advantage of it. This is a grant for $306,000. This will be the last one we apply for the Canaan area. This will be round 3, and we should have completed all houses and brought every house in the area that was eligible to participate up to code. And so tonight, I'm asking for your approval for the application for $306,000 out of the CHIP grant. It's a DCA grant, Department of Community Affairs, which means it is HUD money. That's the Housing and Urban Redevelopment money. I'd also like to preemptively ask if the First United Methodist Church feels so inclined to support the grant administration fees, which are $15,000, that we go ahead and indicate that you'd be willing to accept that once again. For John's benefit, they've funded the last 2 at $15,000, and that's $5,000 a year. They have not preemptively done that because we haven't received the grant, but the request has been made by the housing team for them to support our application for the grant again. Again, that is a $306,000 CHIP grant from DCA with the mayor to sign all necessary documents. And I also have for that specifically the grant administration document. I think Ashley said that she had gotten that attached, or you sent it out.
Email, yeah.
Right, and this is for the grant administration fee. And I do note that it is $16,000, not $15,000, so we might have to throw in $1,000 or ask the Methodist to up it a little bit. And this is with Grant Specialist of Georgia out of Americus. This is Sherry and Jeff Kurtz, who've been our grant administration team, and they've done a fabulous job on the last 2 grants. So I'd like to ask authorization to pursue the 2023 grant round and authorization to sign the contract with the Grant Administration and Writing Services with Grant Specialist of Georgia.
Thank you so much. And since Councilmember Reed serves on this CHIP committee, if you could just sort of recap how important this has been to the Canaan area and the money that has been spent and how happy it has made a lot of our city residents.
It has been very important to the Canaan area. I've actually went and visited a couple of homes. We've repaired some roofs. It's not for beautification, but it is for the safety. So we repaired different roofs. We put in some HVACs, and did a couple of things in a lot of homes in the Canaan community. So we're very appreciative. I've got a lot of feedback from a lot of residents in the Canaan community. So thank you. And I look forward to working with this one as well.
I'd like to also add, not that it is specific, but, well, it is specific. This is one of the things that we have minority contractors apply for, where we don't seem to have a lot of minority businesses apply for other types of grants, not grants, RFPs and RFQs that we put out there. And this one is consistently minority dominated. So that helps balance us out a little bit.
And I think, Monica, I think you have a good team to work with, and they're working with it with their hearts because they love to see people happy.
They do a good job getting the word out to the community of the housing assistance opportunities that are out there.
Yeah.
Thanks. If there are no more questions for Monica, can we get a motion and a second to approve this CHIP grant application?
I move that we authorize the $306,000 CHIP grant application from, DCA, and with the mayor to sign, and additionally approve enlisting grant writing services as outlined by...
With the grant, I never remember, the group out of Americas for $16,000, please.
That's so moved.
The Grant Specialist of Georgia.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Slips my mind from time to
Second.
time.
Are there any more discussion? All in favor, show of hands. Opposed is none, the vote unanimously. Thank you so much. Are there not finished business that we need to talk about?
I've got one more for you.
Okay.
We have had an initial visit by DCA for our next RDF application. So an RDF is a redevelopment grant fund application. I'm just going to remind you how that works. The redevelopment fund is part of the community development block grant allocation that we get from the federal government. The state puts aside 3% to address slum and blight in the state of Georgia. Those funds are competitively available throughout the year to address slum and blight conditions. They are applied for. You have to justify them. If you receive the award comes down as a grant to the city, and then the city turns around and issues it as a loan to the Downtown Development Authority. The Downtown Development Authority takes care of the slum and blight, and then returns, in terms of the form of payment, the money that was loaned by the city. As you're aware, that loan has to be at least 2% now by the new regs that we just adopted. So there will be a little bit of turnaround. Once that money flows back, and a quarter of it to 50% of it is in the city's coffers, we are required to start lending that back out to small institutions. We recently just did that in December. So what you'll see is the new funds will add to the old funds. Now, what the purpose of Pursuit is not just to get money to lend to small businesses. The pursuit of it is to eradicate slum and blight. So this was on the agenda for last year, and things went a little bit more slowly with construction with the Bull Street Warehouse. But now the Downtown Development Authority is ready to proceed with demolition of the liquor store and the old Adrian's building. And so with pursuit of that, we are looking to do a joint city DDA application is the way it works. You have an initial site visit called an initial project assessment. They've been here, they've done that. After they've done that, you proceed with getting your quotes and everything. Once they've done that, you can be reimbursed for anything you expend. Okay, so we could go ahead and tear it down tomorrow, and if we get the grant, it would reimburse it. Is it going to change whether we're going to tear it down or not? No. So I am very comfortable that we are ready to proceed. But we should hear in about 35 to 45 days whether or not the city receives the grant. We'd like a part of that to be a grant instead of it all being out of local coffers. We like to bring that money home to our taxpayers. But if we can't, the demolition will proceed apace around mid-March. What I'm asking you for tonight is approval to seek up to $250,000 in demolition and abatement funds. We had this quoted about 3 years ago, 75 for abatement, for demo, probably another 45 for abatement. Landfill, gas cost, we're not really sure where it's going to be, so I'm asking for a not to exceed number tonight. Since you're going to have no money into the game, I'm hopeful that you will approve that. So it's $250,000, not to exceed that number, depending on what our quotes come back for demolition and hazmat when they get them updated. And DDA has already allocated out of their budget $25,000 into the game so that it will make us more competitive against other DCA applicants. And so there will be no funding from city coffers extended for this. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And if you want to handle the grant and then ask questions about the Bull Street Warehouse, I'm happy to answer those too.
Mr. Mayor, none of the scope of work involves land grading?
You're allowed to spend the money on rough grading and stabilization of the site. Those will be included. So the site will be rough graded and there will be a light cover of grass. It would not include embellishment of the park. It would not include sod. I don't want to relay that this is a beautification grant. There are GDOT beautification grants that are out there that you'll be hearing about later in the year. But at this time, this only applies to slum and blight, hazard abatement, and then stabilization of the site. Did I answer the question?
It does, yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Monica. If there are no more questions for Monica, we could get a motion and a second to approve this DCA IPA RDF application. Gateway demolitions and abatement.
With a not to exceed number. I feel sure it's going to come in closer to 175, but.
Not to exceed 250.
Yes, sir.
We added it.
Does that include the DDA's 25?
It is not, because their allocation is their own.
Well, I would move to approve the agreement and to authorize the mayor and the staff to proceed with seeking the funding for the redevelopment, from redevelopment fund of the Georgia DCA, not to exceed $250,000.
Second.
Are there any more discussion? All in favor, show of hands. Opposed is none. Vote unanimously. Monica, while we have you, there any time frame on when Martha's Eatery will be moving to that new place?
Yes, sir. So one is I'm trying to train myself to say Martha's Favorites, right? Because she's changing to Martha's Favorites, and we're trying to be real respectful of that. All her equipment is installed. I did the walkthrough on Friday. We're down to a punch list.
Okay,
so we've got a little bit of a punch list item with the island, and should that occur, Miss Martha had already asked us to delay slightly till after Christmas because she had a good bit of catering that she needed to do, and we had some electrical to work out anyway. And my Main Street manager's in the room, and she's planning great things with Miss Martha, and so we expect that you will be hearing announcements soon, but DDA will take possession of the property from the contractor probably next week with the CO.
Great.
We're thrilled. I'm thrilled to be done.
Thank you so much.
And there will be some follow-up landscaping that has to occur, but all in all, it's done. Did want to mention, we were planning, if y'all were having a January work session for the Downtown Development Authority, wanted to invite you to a walkthrough. If you would like to, after your February meeting, depending on how that goes, your February work session, I think that's March 1st, March
1st for February?
well, I'm sorry, I said February 1st for the March 1st.
Okay.
February work
February
session.
3rd.
Yes, February 3rd.
February 3rd.
Sorry, it's been a really long Monday. If you would like to, at your next work session, we would be happy to have you for a walkthrough, or they would be happy to have you for a walkthrough. I will also mention that you have a lot on your plate coming up. We do have, WODA is doing their groundbreaking, and I know that the Carrie and the mayor and they're being asked to speak, and everybody's being invited. And then today we got a solicitation from Boys and Girls Club. They'll be doing their groundbreaking at the second week in February too. So there's a lot lining up for early February.
Thanks,
A lot of things to be proud of.
We look forward to, is it February 3rd after our work session to take a tour. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll make sure.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Are there not finished business we need to discuss?
Mr. Mayor, can I
Yes.
mention one or two things before
Yes,
we
sir,
go
you
into
can.
executive session? I just wanted to inform the members of the council that I provided the latest draft of the motorized cart ordinance, and I wanted to publicly thank Chief Ashburn, Planning Director Callahan, and Mr. Philip Malcolm, who have worked long and hard on this complex issue. The idea came out in a work session at the council that we have a town meeting to inform those citizens that are impacted what the implications of this are. So if the council does not have any objection, we will in the next week or two, after advertising it through Mr. Kosher and all of our various outlets, that there will be a town meeting to discuss this ordinance and the implications, especially for those that already have a cart, and what they would need to do to retrofit before it comes before the council for final vote, which we hope is in February or no later than March.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, John.
And I just want to remind the council that our Tuesday morning sessions continue, and if anybody's interested, they'll be available from 8 to 9:30 tomorrow when we start our first staff meeting of the year thereafter. And so I just wanted to mention those things. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So you're saying that the council meeting will be from 8:30 to 9:30, I guess?
8 to 9:30.
And then your staff meeting follows that meeting?
10 to 11:30.
Okay, thank you. New business? Ashley, you want to talk about the 2023 qualified fees approval?
Mr. Mayor, is it okay if I sit right here?
Sure.
So it won't take long at all. Yes, when it's an election year, we have to get qualifying fees out by a certain time, and so Jennifer Doran sent this to me right before the end of the year And so we need to get these qualifying fees approved for District 1, 3, and 4. And this fee is based on 3% of the salary paid to those districts the previous year. So these are the numbers, and if you could get, if I could get approval for the qualifying fees, I'll get them over to Ms. Doran.
I believe we've seen a copy of the qualified fees coming up at the end of this year. I guess it's July, August, when is it coming up? Ashley?
Qualifying
August coming up in
begin
August.
August 21st.
Time flies, huh?
It does.
If we can get a motion and a second to approve the qualified fees.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any more discussion? All in favor, show of hands. Opposers, none, vote unanimously. Thank you so much. Anything else coming for our council tonight? I don't think we will meet again before we be going to City United. I think some of our council members are planning to go to City United, I think at the end of this month. So Eric, Councilmember Joyce, Councilmember Reed, Councilmember Whitehouse, you're going, right? John, are you going? And I'll also be going, so.
Any of the, I think it was the last one, there were a number of us that went over to the Capitol on Monday. Are y'all planning on doing that again this year?
I have to go. But they'll love you to go.
Would you like to rephrase that, Mr. Mayor?
Well, I just have to go.
I will be going, he says.
Are you planning on going, Karen, Monday?
I'm not sure yet.
Not sure.
Are you going, Eric?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I'm not going.
Okay, so it'll be two
You're
of
not?
us.
So if we did, it would probably just be you and me, is that what you're saying?
Probably so.
I happened to run into our new, I hate calling him the new Dave Belton, but the new Dave Belton, Mr. Representative Fleming, I believe is his name. Ran into him the other day, and I kind of gave him a heads up that at least some of us would be coming. I kind of want to get an idea of how many, so I don't oversell it.
Okay.
Since none of you will be meeting again before then, if you are going to be meeting with any of the legislators, if you would like to swing by my office and talk about housing, I'm serving on the Housing Policy Committee. There are a lot of things that are going to get dropped this year that are anti-home rule, that are about taking cities' ability to regulate housing and steer housing and guide housing and development in their communities away from cities. And ACCG and GMA are taking a very active role on it. But if you'd like to hear about some of those things that maybe you could mention to our representatives, I'd be happy to allot 20, 30 minutes, and we could just go over maybe some talking points.
Be great, yeah. Thanks, Monica. There's nothing else to come before this council. Are there any public comments? If not, this council is adjourned. If I could get a motion.
Mr. Mayor, you going into executive
Yeah,
session?
get a motion and a second to go into executive session.
We just, but we don't adjourn. We just
No.
move to go to executive.
Get it.
I
No, we're not
move-
adjourned.
I move
Get a motion to
that,
go into executive session to discuss pending matters.
okay.
Go ahead, Beth.
Oh, I move that we go into executive to discuss pending legal, real estate, and personal matters.
Second.
Are there any more discussion? All in favor, show of hands. Opposed, none, we will now go into executive session. Anybody need to take a quick break before we go into
No,
executive
no
session?
time,
No
no
time?
They're